Hey, this is Ryan Croton, More Than Velocity podcast. We're going to do another segment with my man, Mike Killian. Again, we're keeping these short. You got to listen to this guy. Like I said, he is a go-to guy for me, especially when it comes to injured pitchers. And unfortunately, we're in a place where we have to know more about return to throwing programs and rehabilitation than just player development. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. Those of you who have injured athletes in your business, they're going to go to Mike. He's a guy that's going to gobble up those athletes because he's got a real sound way of being able to get them back on the mound and doing the right thing to exceed performance. For the people who are listening that are in the industry, they have facilities. If you're a coach listening to this, if you're a player listening to this, we're going to have the contact details for Mike. I just want to, before we get into this, I want to address, he's shifting his business model because I've had to make him realize there's nobody really doing this. Sullivan's great. He's one that comes to mind, Randy Sullivan. But in his neck of the woods, I don't think there's anybody on that side of the world, the Midwest, even the West Coast. I don't know too many guys that are taking these broken pitchers, they're in a cocoon and bringing them into the butterfly, the butterfly being this recreation, this reincarnation, this transformation, this morphology of becoming a new athlete. So this is a symbol. I've been asking him, we got to kind of think about the business. I don't do a ton of business coaching, but I help some people that I really care about and are really focused on doing the right thing for athletes over making money. And, we came up with this rejuvenation pitching, that's kind of like his deal. So I got to keep tapping into his case studies because you guys got to know, how he's going about his business. You're going to have hurt athletes if you're not using our arm care system, you're going to have a lot of them. They're going to be more. We've got almost 5,500 athletes using this, 3 reported arm injuries to date. And in science would tell us we should have 1,500 surgeries out of a population like this, or at least injuries that require conservative management of throwing injuries. So we need to know what to do. If you're not getting this device, you're going to end up getting it if you have a hurt athlete. You have to. You got no way around it. But don't go there. It's just easier to stay well than to get well. So we're going to go into another segment on a player he's working with from Wichita State. Kid wrote a testimonial, beautiful. He's bought in, high level pitcher, and might take over. Let's walk through what's going on with this.
Okay, guy. Yeah, it's a guy from St. Louis. So I've been actually working with him off and on probably since he was 13, and he's now I guess with COVID, I guess he's a COVID sophomore. I think academically he may be close to being a junior, but with COVID and the way they were keeping eligibility, he's a sophomore at Wichita State. And he loves the program. It's a great program. There's a ex-pro that's a pitching coach. And he texted me probably a week ago. He said, "Hey, I'm starting to have arm pain." And he had it in the past, and we got him to the Cardinals orthopedic, and we basically, did rest and then did a return to throwing and got him healthy, and he went to Wichita State this year. So he texted me and said, "Hey, I'm starting to have this arm pain again." And so I said, exactly, give me some details, exactly what's going on. What are you doing there? What's the training staff doing? And they were doing everything right, and nothing crazy. But he just kept having pain. So he kept having to shut down, rest it, start back up, and the pain would come back up. So, I said, so you need to get these 2 devices, a connection ball and a training sock. You have them with you because he's used them with me before.
Tell me, I don't mean to cut you off. I just kind of, as we get into that, I want you to go into because you mentioned it before in previous segments. I want you to go into a little bit of detail of their purpose. Why the connection ball? Why the sock? Why is it that's something important to you?
Yeah, what the connection ball does, and it's what we call put it in position 1, which is the inside of the forearm and the bicep.
Yeah, so right in here.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it puts the arm in the perfect position, and so you can't get any forearm flyouts, and you can't get your hand behind your head, and so it's amazing how you can use that and put your arm in a perfect slot, and guys will immediately throw with it and not have a single issue.
Yep.
And then the training sock is more for the posterior type work. You see guys, do the posterior to try to build your, pitchers do the reverse throws. Well, if you think about it, yes, reverse throw is concentric, and your follow through is eccentric.
He said, "Oh my Lord, you are speaking to me in the right language." Yes.
And so I've always cringed watching.
Me too. Just wait. I got to cut you off there, because this is the part that kind of baffles me. Okay. This really baffles me about reverse throws. All right. In biomechanics, I'm partly a biomechanist and an exercise physiologist. In biomechanics, the highest loading on the elbow is near maximal external rotation. It's talking like, if you're looking at the data and you're scrubbing it and you're looking at the curve, it's like 2 clicks. Boom, boom. You're at the peak just before maximal external rotation. It's like almost right there, right? Now, we know that's the hot zone. Okay. Now you take this weighted ball, and the torque, the valgus torque, which opens the elbow, right? Remember, it's laying back, it's opening up the elbow. We're accelerating layback. We're accelerating the speed of the arm going behind the body. Okay. So now we got the mass of the forearm, which gives us some mass. We've increased the acceleration, mass times acceleration is force. What are we doing? We're just like what you're saying, we're concentrically operating behind the body. Now, and because you're an athletic trainer, you're in this world, 90% of the injuries in baseball are posterior driven, right? Slap tears, peel back mechanism, really, lax shoulder, laying back quick, a lot of leg, bicep tendon rolls and pulls the labrum off, right? That's one. All right. I talked to you about the layback of the forearm, rapid speed. We're increasing the load on the UCL, right? And the other thing is posterior rotator cuff tears. Again, like what you said, eccentric. So a lot of our injuries are posterior related. There's some compression related injuries, and those things happen. TOS, thoracic outlet syndrome, for people who don't know, is compression of the blood vessels. And I just think we need to be a little bit more skeptical of the things we see on social media. We need to be a little bit more scientific. And you just kind of got me on a rant. Let's go back to you. I'm sorry.
So what the training sock does, it's basically like a canvas bag, and it has a little strap that you hook your pinky and your ring finger in. So it kind of holds that sock in place so it doesn't slide up and down. And you basically put a baseball in before you put your arm in. Okay. And then what happens, then you grip that ball, and then you go through your normal throwing motion, and you release the ball, but it stays in the sock. So now you're getting that eccentric building of the posterior shoulder.
Yep.
And what we've found is once I get somebody through the pain phase and they have no longer pain, now you can truly take a 7-ounce, a 14-ounce, a 21-ounce ball and work on 2 weeks each, and now use a plyo ball with no stress to the arm, building your posterior side.
Yep. I mean, dude, my Lord, I remember back in a while back, and Jordan Osagura, he's not on here, but he's done with Tom House. He's worked with Tom House, his upbringing. He's really been a strong mentor for him. But he's done a lot of research into the effects of weighted balls. And one of the things that he kind of brought to my attention when I joined the Angels is how impactful weighted ball holds are. Right. So it just kind of put me on this like spectrum of like, hey, I want to study this. One, the thing I like about it is that you got to challenge your grip. You're not letting go of the ball. It creates an ischemic component. So when I mean ischemic, it reduces blood flow to the arm. And people who, they're using blood flow restriction training, it's putting more growth hormones in the tissue. It's increasing lactic acid. There's more growth hormone that gets released. There's a lot of these different benefits of this ischemic position. Forearm endurance, right? But what I notice, and people knock weighted ball holds, and they're going to knock the sock because it doesn't look like throwing, but it's a training exercise. Exactly what you said is that now you're decelerating. The deceleration training, I mean, imagine this. We're getting training by throwing or throwing action. So now we're getting closer to what happens in the game, right? I move it like, I don't know, a 5-pound cuff weight, and I'm going in different positions, and it's isotonic and it's slow and concentric. But now I've kicked it up a notch. Even with a lighter implement, we were getting strength benefits with like 2-pound balls, and not letting go. And I'm talking like 10 weeks, we're seeing 5-6 pound increases and jumps, because of that. For me, I'm not a clinician. Okay. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not an athletic trainer. I'm not a doctor. I'm a PhD, but you are a clinician. And when I hear this from you, it's like, okay, it kind of validates I'm on the right path researching this. The other thing that I like about weighted ball holds that people might not know when they're listening to this is that it increases beyond throwing. It increases the eccentric elbow flexion torque. Okay. That means that it's slowing down elbow extension. And what people don't realize, like I got into baseball and when I first started, it was like, no, don't do bicep work. Don't do isolated bicep strengthening. Stay away from it. It's not in our program. They're going to get bicep training when pulling. They're going to get, they'll get enough that they need in rowing. Well, I started researching the bicep. The bicep is crazy muscle. Okay. It's amazing. One, players are vain. They like checking out their biceps. They love it. You give a pitcher bicep work and you're like, hey, work on your guns. They love it. But the bicep, especially in the eccentric component, is the strongest stabilizer of the medial elbow. Think about it. It crosses the shoulder joint. It crosses the elbow joint. So it's got two functions at the shoulder and the elbow. So at the elbow, it's a valgus strain resistor or sprain resistor. So it protects the UCL. It slows the arm. It reduces valgus extension overload. That's another problem. When the UCL, the muscles aren't very strong, you get compression in the elbow. So that's something it does. The bicep you need. But what people don't know is that in the arm, when it lays back, the bicep's a secondary stabilizer of external rotation. So if you're a super lax athlete, right, you got weak internal rotator cuff, eccentrically, your bicep's going to do more. It puts a lot of stress on it, and it pulls off the labor, and it's not strong eccentrically to handle that, to have strength in a lengthened position. So, I just love the muscle. It's a great stabilizer in so many ways. It assists in raising the arm up. I mean, the bicep's a crazy muscle. It's important. So, I'm just kind of getting back on that sock training that you're doing. You're doing the right thing, in my opinion. So I'm going to go back to you. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned holds, and the sock came about because the holds were a big thing. But what you'd find a lot of times based on the athlete is their throwing motion would change trying to hold on to a heavier ball.
Correct.
And what we found with the sock was that since you're releasing it, but it's staying in the sock, there's no longer that throwing change,
Yep.
You're able to release it like you normally would a baseball.
Okay. Getting back to you. I'm sorry, because you're just spitting wisdom, and I got to do the side piece. So this is another cool thing about Mike is that he's looking for biomechanical consistency. That's been the knock for weighted balls, and I think you're going to be able to pioneer certain ways to utilize the sock in training heavier implements, different components, maybe I always thought about this too, is squeezing a ball that doesn't compress, not like a plyo ball, but generating more of a stiffness in the wrist and in the forearm development. Like we're talking shoulder, but you can get maximal information out of it. But, I love the fact that you're using the training, and this makes sense with an injured athlete. I get it. If you use weighted balls with a healthy athlete, that's okay. But reintegration, yeah, they've been off of throwing and they need to rehearse what their pattern is again, or a better pattern. Right. So you make total sense, because now, force, mass times acceleration. If I put a heavier mass in my hand, acceleration goes down. So that can affect the force of the training. that you're not influencing. You're really doing a great job keeping acceleration high and the biomechanical consistency. So I'm going back to you. Thanks, man.
Okay. So this athlete came home this weekend from Wichita State, and so he came to me last night at the end of my training. And so the very first thing I did was put a connection ball, because what I'll normally do is if I use a connection ball and there's still discomfort, then I'll add the sock, because it actually just creates another stabilizer. But what we did is we put that connection ball in position one, which is the inside of the bicep and forearm, and he threw a baseball, into the side of the net, and he goes, "No way." I go, "What?" He goes, "Nothing."
No pain.
No pain at all. Because he was, for the last 3 weeks, every time he'd throw a ball, it'd be like somebody was stabbing him with a knife. And so he grabbed the baseball and threw it a little bit harder, and kept doing this for 20 throws. And then literally at the end of 20 throws, he still had absolutely no pain. His medial side of his arm was not tender. So I mean, he was hooked. And so at that point in time, we set up a whole protocol of taking the arm care program and wrapping it around those throws. And then basically what I told him is we're going to do the connection ball for almost a week, and if it continued, you had no pain, then we're going to add the sock in so we could start adding weight. Because what I've found is I mean, I'll do plyo balls up to 2 pounds, but they're always in a sock.
Yep.
So
man.
So even though we're releasing it, it really isn't releasing out of the, from the pull on the arm.
Man, dude.
So we'll go 2 weeks with the 7 ounce, 2 weeks with 14 ounce, and 2 weeks with 21 ounce. And he was panicking because he's supposed to go play in the collegiate league this summer. And he goes, "Well, that's 6 weeks out." And I said, "You're going to be fine in 6 weeks."
Nice, man. I mean, this is how a return to performance process should happen. I mean, biomechanical consistency, monitoring, strength monitoring. Strength is the apex. We're not doing that. I mean, most of the kids, when they go back to return to throw, the range of motion has been worked on. It's going to improve by throwing, but the strength needs to be there to protect itself. But what I love about you is you set benchmarks. Players, when they get hurt, they're often in the dark, and one of the reasons, especially the more expensive they are, people don't want to fudge it. They don't want to say, "Oh, you're going to be ready in 5 weeks," and they're afraid if the athlete has a setback or it's got to be extended. But what I like about you is you're understanding the psychology about this kid. He's worried. He doesn't know. He needs exposure. He needs to be on the mound. And, here this is coming up. We got, we're in a time constraint, and all of a sudden, you give the reassurance, the confidence, and say that you're going to be fine. We're going to get you there. For me, you're my athlete. I'm injured. Opposed to anybody else, I worked with a physical therapist or whoever, who might send me home with a return to throw program, and I'm on my own. I'm going to you because you're going to get my mind right. And you get my mind right, you're going to get my body right. You're going to get my emotions right. You're going to get my behaviors right. You're going to start sleeping. I'm comfortable. Keep going, man.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and that was pretty much how we left it. I mean, I gave him the protocol. He's going to, I gave him a dynamometer and the resistance bands and the hip and core band. And so starting today, he's actually doing his fresh exam. He'll go through his prep for the fresh exam. Do the fresh exam, then he'll actually do the connection ball. He's going to do 3 sets of 8, day one, and then he'll do his post exam, and then he'll go through the workout. And now he's going to do that every single day. Once we get into the weighted ball, he'll actually do the weighted ball every other day, and he'll do just the straight connection ball with the baseball on the opposite days. And then and again, will be able to monitor, and I'll be able to monitor hearing from Missouri with him and being in Kansas by the arm care program. So I'll know immediately post test if it started to drop or then I'll be able to immediately adjust his workout. because all he's doing in between are the throws. So we know if the fatigue hits too high, then I'll back off on what throws we're doing, or make sure he's doing them right. The other thing he promised to do was he will video them when he does them, so I can make sure the mechanics are there.
I mean, this is, I get chills talking to you. I mean, I think you're a genius, but the cool thing about you is that the standard of care doesn't end. It's like, that's another problem in rehab. I know I'm going off in another, I hate saying rehab. I got to stop saying that. Return to performance, because you're a return to performance specialist. You're a rejuvenator. I mean, that's what it is. But what I like about you, opposed to other people in the industry, and I don't mean to discredit other people, is that the athlete is generally case managed. And once they hit a certain place, they're given to someone else. Hey, I'm the physical therapist. All right, I got them to return to throw. They're back, working with a strength coach. I'm kind of a little bit backed out. Your standard of care is all encompassing, and it's continuous. Player leaves you, you're there. You're with them along the whole time frame. It doesn't matter. You're taking them from soup to nuts, coming in broken, coming out hot, and you're measuring, you're monitoring them. You're keeping that going to ensure that they stay well. And you and I both know, I mean, obviously we got a medical perspective. We're looking at data. Your personal experience, secondary injuries, man, not good, right? Not good, much more challenging, especially if it's a secondary surgery. I mean, I've worked with some players that had 3 Tommy John surgeries, 3. And every single time, I can't even imagine how they come back. I mean, it's hard to come back from 2. It cuts your return to performance percentage in half, essentially. But coming back from 3, you have less biological tissue. You're grabbing, cadaver stuff. You're grabbing tissue from your thigh or wherever you're going to be to dock it again. I mean, it doesn't work that well,
or even just you do Tommy John, and what people don't understand is they're cutting your pronator and flexor tendons just to get to the UCL, and so it's never the same. I mean, you'll see indentations on guys. I mean, I can look at a form and know immediately, even without seeing a scar, that he's had a procedure.
Yep. Unbelievable, man. I mean, this is crazy. So let's get to this player. So we've talked about the outset. We've talked about where he's going to be, where you forecast him. You forecast him where he's going to be, how you're going to monitor, this particular athlete. What's going to happen when he goes back to the school year? Because a lot of people have this problem. I see it. You can look at online. I mean, all these greats in the industry, all these private industry greats. I mean, there's great people out there, no question. Being outside of Major League Baseball and seeing people in private industry, it kind of, I'm like, wow, why are these guys not working with the best athletes in the world? But you get these college guys that you get for like a second, very short. They got to go back to school. How are you going to massage that relationship now when he goes back to college? Because they got to win, and this is, sorry, I don't mean to go off on another tangent, but in the industry of sports, we got to start to become more humble. We got to take our egos out, right? That's a barrier to communication. So I'm just thinking myself, and it's different. Here I am, pitching coach, at what X school. And my athlete's been sore. He's been having problems. I'm trying to do stuff. I can't get to a place anymore. The guy that's got the ego, that's the elbow that blows out, right? The guy that says, hey, I need Mike. I got to go to him. I don't want my player experience this stuff. He's got to go there and get fixed, right? Now I've become that elite coach because I'm able to delegate to somebody who is a true specialist. How does it get massaged back though? Now when the athlete comes back to the program, healthy, feeling good, I'm the pitching coach. I want him to do my thing. I want him to throw my frequencies of pitching. I want him in my program. How does it work with you?
I mean, what I believe is going to happen with him is when he's going to go back and he's going to be healthy, and so I think it's going to actually open up the door to these guys who are going to say, well, what are you doing? I mean, another perfect example is there's another college guy that we haven't talked about yet that I've gotten him healthy, and he's now back playing, and he's doing all my stuff team facility, and everybody's like, what are you doing? And now there's 4 guys that are actually following what he does with the equipment that I gave him.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine that. I mean, the people that are out there, especially in the private industry, right? You need to secure that athlete's business. One, you care about that athlete. He's taking care of your family. He's looking after your facility. He's essential. Doesn't matter if he's 12 or if he's, an MLB Cy Young winner. He's committing to your business and your life and your family. Imagine, just like what you're doing, and want the people to understand how you're so successful is, our product. Obviously, I work for the company and I believe in it. It's not sales to me. It's a message that needs to be sent. Having this small investment, we're talking, you're spending a dynamometer that's research grade should be about $1,500 to $2,000. And for each month, you're spending the price of a taco or a burrito from Chipotle, and now when the athlete has that, a person like you is never out of the loop. Never. You would just open up your computer every day, scan through the guys, say, hey, I got to reach out to coach so-and-so. I just want to help him monitor this athlete. Because guess what? This kid gets hurt. He goes on the shelf. There goes your livelihood. He's not coming in. You got to wait to have that athlete again. And it doesn't feel good because you have so much knowledge to give the athlete. And now you got to go through this. And he's got emotional pain. And the pitching coach with a huge ego, who doesn't want her, is like, I'm not taking this in. This is not me. He loses the player. And if it's in a consequential team and the AD is not happy, there goes your job. Or he tells the head coach, hey, you got to make a change. You got to show me that you're going to make a change here in this staff. We're not making the top 20 and we're a huge school or a big SEC school. I'm putting a ton of money into your athletes. I'm giving you all the opportunity possible to be successful. Are you doing the most possible to keep them on the field? And that's where a guy like you personally needs to be a consultant to colleges, especially there, because colleges are more, in my opinion, have more pressure than pro teams. The big league level, yeah, there's a ton of pressure. People get fired over injuries for whatever reason. But the college, you're not replacing players like a minor league system. You don't have a good pool of athletes. You can just jump in there. You're going to lose. You are going to lose by ego, by not accepting new information, by not accepting help from people who are specialists, right? So I'm talking about you in the future, but I mean, this is where your mentality is, right? It's this continuity of care.
I never lose track of these guys. I'll literally text them weekly, how's it going? And until I see that they, if they moved on, then, I still wish them well. And
yeah,
I'm constantly, I have a cell phone and I'm probably up until 1 a.m. answering, guys send me video and, so I'm constantly looking at their stuff.
I know, man. I'm up late. This is why I love you. This is why I think you're made for pro baseball personally. You are wound up after 10 p.m. In my opinion, the people that I've seen that are most successful in pro sport, because it's mostly night games, are the ones who their brains come alive after the game. I see some coaches. I love them all. Everybody I've worked with, I think they're great people. I've learned so much. I'm so grateful for them. But my evaluation, and there's definitely has to be work-life balance. Okay, for sure. But my evaluation of great coaches, the difference between great coaches and elite coaches is this ability to, after the game, not going into the shower and putting your clothes on right away and trying to get out of there. Game's over. Yeah, you lose. Okay. I'm gonna reset. I'm gonna leave for the next day. Now, those elite coaches, they're digging. They're pissed off that the team lost. And guess what? They feel responsible. And they hang around. I remember with the Angels, man, we had some great coaches. I'm going to name a couple of them right now, at least in my side of things in strength and conditioning. Lee Fiocchi, Guy you got to meet, Dynamic Sports Training. The assistant coach that we had there, strength coach, Adam Auer, phenomenal. And we would just sit there, you know, players would get banged up. We'd look at the treatment reports. We'd look at the injury reports. We'd talk about our own training. We'd talk about people that came in to talk to us, you know, during games. A lot of the time we didn't go and watch games on the bench. It'd be very rare to see a strength coach sit on the bench in that organization, because during the games, our brains were alive. We were talking, we were programming. Hey, this guy's coming out. What's the adjustment? He's fatigued. We're going to evaluate him. What's the adjustment? You know, he's complained about this. What's the adjustment? Sore back, getting treatment. Squats out the door. Let's come up with something else. Okay. When the starter comes out of the game. To me, that's elite. Those people I work with were elite because they had the intestinal fortitude and the mentality that they weren't going to turn it in and they were going to have no stone unturned. So when I get emails from you, and I go to bed, you know, pretty late, 1:30 in the morning, usually, I can't turn off the pro setting in my brain. I'm doing work. I'm thinking, I'm looking at data, I'm evaluating, I'm coming up with marketing strategies, all these kinds of things. And then I get emails from you. I'm like, yeah, that's my kind of guy, you know? So, hey, this is the last segment of Mike Killian. I'm going to have his information. We're going to, you know, really, you know, get some outreach, because some of you guys that are listening to this guy, you need to communicate with him. You got to let him talk to you. He is a lovable person, always giving you time. He is, you know, creative and objective and data led. And he's a role model for me. He's a mentor for me. And I've only known him for a few months, maybe a year since using our product. And I'm just grateful to the Lord above that he's in my life, and I hope he's in yours. So Mike, thanks for these segments. And, you know, until next time, I'm More Than Velocity.
Thank you.